Carmen Jimenez stepped onto American Bandstand in 1959 and almost immediately became a dancer viewers could not forget. Just 16, raised in Philadelphia's Kensington neighborhood after being born in Puerto Rico, she brought a presence that was both gentle and striking. Among the rows of teenagers spinning across the polished studio floor, Carmen stood out for her calm elegance and her instantly recognizable look. She was one of the few Latina regulars, a fact that carried quiet weight at a time when national television rarely reflected such diversity. What made Carmen special was not flash or extravagance, but the way she made every movement seem effortless. Whether paired with Eddie Kelly or Mike Balara, she danced with a grace that felt natural, even unstudied. By the time she and Bob Kelly earned third place in the Jitterbug contest of 1960, fans already knew her as more than just another face in the crowd. She was the dancer who carried both charm and representation onto the nation's screens. Carmen Jimenez's journey began far from television cameras, in the vibrant but often overlooked streets of Philadelphia's Kensington neighborhood. Her family had come from Puerto Rico, bringing with them the rhythms, traditions, and warmth of their island home. Life in Kensington was not easy. Working-class families faced constant struggles to make ends meet, but the Jimenez household was full of music and resilience. Spanish-language songs mingled with the rising sounds of American rock and roll, creating a soundtrack that shaped Carmen and her younger sister Ivette long before they ever danced on national television. At Kensington High School, Carmen lived a life that seemed ordinary on the surface. She was friendly and approachable, remembered by classmates as someone who carried herself with quiet dignity. While she admitted that she wasn't particularly athletic, she loved skating at the local rink, where she found freedom in movement and balance, skills that later translated to her confident steps on the bandstand floor. Teachers and friends alike noted her kindness, a quality that would endear her to fans across the country once she appeared on screen. Her family life gave Carmen both strength and identity. Surrounded by siblings, Adele, Maria, Victor, and Orlando, she grew up in a lively home where conversation and laughter flowed easily. But it was Ivette who walked most closely beside her, sharing not just a bedroom, but also a dream. The two sisters decided to join American Bandstand together, each encouraging the other through the daunting experience of dancing live in front of millions. Their presence side by side was quietly groundbreaking, two Puerto Rican teenagers visible on a stage where diversity was still rare. This dual heritage, rooted in Puerto Rican culture, yet shaped by Philadelphia's working-class reality, became the foundation of Carmen's uniqueness. She was not a polished star manufactured for the screen. She was a real teenager with a background that resonated with many who had never seen themselves represented on national television. When she first stepped into Studio B, she carried with her more than just talent. She carried the pride of her family, the rhythms of two cultures, and the hopes of countless viewers who suddenly realized that someone like them could also belong in America's most famous teen dance program. When Carmen Jimenez first walked into Studio B in 1959, she was just another teenager waiting in line among dozens of hopefuls. The energy inside the Philadelphia studio was electric. Spotlights glared, cameras whirred, and music pulsed through the air as Dick Clark's voice carried across the room. For Carmen, it was overwhelming at first. She had watched the show like so many others, but stepping onto that polished floor was an entirely different experience. Nerves melted away once the music started, and within minutes, she found herself moving with a confidence that surprised even her. Viewers at home noticed too. The girl with the distinctive look and gentle smile suddenly felt like someone they had known for years. Her partnerships quickly became part of her story. Dancing with Eddie Kelly introduced her to audiences, while time spent with Mike Balara gave her opportunities to experiment with livelier rhythms. But the turning point came in 1960, when Carmen entered the jitterbug contest with Bob Kelly. The jitterbug was demanding, fast spins, tight footwork, and precise timing, but Carmen thrived under the pressure. She and Bob secured third place, a result that marked her as more than just a regular dancer in the background. That performance resonated beyond the contest itself. Letters began arriving from fans who admired her agility and warmth, some confessing that she was their very first teenage crush. Teen magazines started to take notice, occasionally publishing photos of her alongside other popular regulars. For classmates back at Kensington High, seeing Carmen succeed on television became a source of pride. She was no longer just their friend from the neighborhood. She was representing them on a national stage. What made this moment so significant was the cultural weight behind it. Carmen's presence in the contest meant more than winning a trophy. It meant visibility for a Puerto Rican teenager whose family, like many others, often felt invisible in mainstream America. Without ever intending to, she became a quiet symbol of representation. By placing in the jitterbug, she proved that talent, determination, and authenticity could earn recognition even in the most competitive setting. The 1960 contest marked the beginning of Carmen's rise. She had stepped onto the floor as a shy girl from Kensington, but she left it as a dancer who had earned her place in bandstand history. For her, it was only the first of many moments that would keep her name alive in the memories of those who watched. By 1961, Carmen Jimenez had moved beyond being a fresh face. She had become a fixture of American Bandstand. Week after week, viewers expected to see her when the opening theme began, searching the dance floor for the girl whose graceful style had quietly captured their attention. Carmen never tried to dominate with flashiness or exaggerated flair. Instead, her strength lay in how natural her movements felt, as though she carried the rhythm of the music within her. She projected elegance without pretense, and that subtlety made her unforgettable. Her partnerships reflected different sides of her personality. With Eddie Kelly, she moved with calm precision, letting his steady style draw out her own poise. With Mike Balara, she seemed more playful, her smile widening as they spun to faster songs. And then came Frank Vacca, her partner for the pony contest. The pony was a new sensation, energetic and bouncy, demanding stamina and timing. Carmen took to it with ease, showing that she could adapt to changing styles just as readily as she had mastered the jitterbug. Their performance earned third place, repeating her earlier success and reinforcing her reputation as a strong competitor. Outside of contests, Carmen was equally memorable. She built genuine friendships with other regulars like Franny Giordano, sharing the backstage nerves, the pressure of being on live TV, and the joy of teenage camaraderie. Fans who followed the show closely often noted the way Carmen and her friends encouraged each other, laughing and chatting during breaks between songs. These small moments, never scripted, revealed the heart of the bandstand experience. The 1961 pony contest became a defining highlight of her time on the show. Though she didn't take home the top prize, it hardly mattered to the audience. What stayed with them was the image of Carmen bouncing effortlessly to the beat of Pony Time, her dark hair catching the studio lights, her steps crisp yet unforced. She embodied what teenagers across America wanted to feel: confidence, freedom, and joy in the music. This period marked the peak of Carmen's visibility. Teen magazines printed her picture, fan letters continued to arrive, and young viewers wrote about how they looked up to her as both dancer and role model. For a girl from Kensington, it was a remarkable ascent, proof that grace and authenticity could turn an ordinary teenager into a symbol of bandstand's magic. For Carmen Jimenez, American Bandstand was never just about television exposure. It was about the people who made the experience meaningful. At the center of this was her bond with her younger sister Ivette. The two often entered the studio together, walking side by side through the long lines of teenagers waiting to get in. Once inside, they carried themselves with the kind of ease only siblings could share. Viewers who noticed the Jimenez sisters sensed not only their charm, but also the quiet pride of seeing two Puerto Rican teenagers representing their community on national television. On the dance floor, Carmen's partnerships showed her adaptability. With Eddie Kelly, she radiated steadiness, moving in unison with his practiced style. With Mike Balara, her dancing felt lighter, more playful, her smile brightening with every turn. And with Frank Vacca, her pony contest partner, she revealed stamina and precision, pushing herself to match the fast-paced energy of a new craze sweeping America. Each partnership allowed her to reveal a different side of herself, proving that she could thrive no matter the rhythm. But what truly defined Carmen's bandstand years was her relationship with the fans. Letters poured in from teenagers across the country who saw her as approachable and real. Many admitted she was their first crush, captivated not only by her beauty, but by the sense that she could be the girl next door. Stories circulated about her graciousness, signing autographs on the bus after school, chatting warmly with admirers, never letting attention make her distant. These anecdotes, whether passed among classmates or shared in fan columns, gave her an aura of authenticity that only deepened her appeal. Fan clubs sprouted from many regulars, and while Carmen's following might not have been as large as those of Bandstand's most famous stars, it was deeply loyal. Supporters treasured her background, her humility, and her quiet confidence. For them, Carmen symbolized not just a dancer on television, but a reminder that ordinary teenagers could shine without sacrificing who they were. In the end, it was these relationships, her sister beside her, her partners on the floor, and her fans across the country, that gave depth to Carmen's bandstand journey. They were the connections that made her more than a name in the credits. They made her part of the collective memory of a generation. Every dancer's time on American Bandstand eventually came to an end, and for Carmen Jimenez, the exit came quietly. By 1961, the show was evolving, preparing for a future beyond Philadelphia, and not every teenager could follow. Carmen had always been grounded in her family and her community, and she chose not to pursue the uncertain path of television as the program's focus shifted. In later interviews, Carmen reflected with candor on those years. She spoke warmly about the thrill of live television, the friendships she had formed, and the joy of dancing to the music that defined a generation. But she also admitted the pressure could be overwhelming. Balancing schoolwork with hours in the studio was exhausting. The attention from fans, flattering as it was, sometimes felt intrusive for a girl who had never sought the spotlight. Leaving the show gave her the chance to step back and rediscover her identity outside of the cameras. Her departure highlighted a truth shared by many regulars. Bandstand gave sudden visibility, but it offered little long-term security. Fame was fleeting, and only a handful of dancers turned it into a career in entertainment. For Carmen, the decision was practical as much as personal. She valued stability and wanted to build a future rooted in service rather than fleeting celebrity. The transition was not without difficulty. After years of hearing the cheers and feeling the adrenaline of live performance, moving into a quieter life required adjustment. Yet Carmen carried lessons from the studio floor into her next chapter. The discipline of rehearsals, the confidence she found while dancing, and the resilience she built facing public attention became assets in the working world. She soon began her career in healthcare administration, a field that demanded responsibility and compassion. It was a different stage, far from the lights of Studio B, but one where she could make a lasting impact. Carmen would go on to devote more than 3 decades to hospitals and nonprofit organizations, shaping lives in ways less visible than television, but arguably more profound. Leaving Bandstand was not the end of her story. It was a new beginning. While fans remembered her as the graceful teenager who brought quiet representation to their screens, Carmen herself embraced a rhythm of life that was steadier, more grounded, and ultimately more fulfilling. After stepping away from American Bandstand, Carmen Jimenez built a life that proved just as meaningful as her days on television, though far less public. She pursued a career in healthcare administration, dedicating more than 30 years to hospitals and nonprofit organizations in Philadelphia. In this work, Carmen discovered a different kind of stage, one where the spotlight was replaced by responsibility, and where her impact could be measured not in applause, but in lives improved. Colleagues described her as steady and compassionate, someone who carried the same warmth that once drew fans to her on television. Family remained at the center of her world. Alongside her sister Ivette, who had shared the bandstand experience with her, Carmen stayed close to her siblings and embraced the role of daughter, sister, mother, and eventually grandmother. Photos from later years show her surrounded by family, smiling with the same approachable charm that fans remembered from decades earlier. To her loved ones, she was never just the girl from Bandstand. She was the anchor of their family life. Her Puerto Rican heritage also remained a guiding force. Carmen participated in community events, supporting causes that highlighted Latin culture in Philadelphia. In doing so, she continued the quiet representation she had begun as a teenager, proving that visibility was just as powerful in everyday community life as it was on national television. Though she had moved into a quieter rhythm, Carmen never entirely lost touch with her past. She attended reunions where fans, now grown, still remembered her as one of their favorite dancers. In 1985, she appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show with other bandstand regulars, revisiting the magic of those Philadelphia years. Decades later, she and Ivette were warmly welcomed at events like the BCTV Dance Party, where the Jimenez sisters were acknowledged as part of the show's enduring legacy. These gatherings reminded Carmen that her presence had mattered. For fans, seeing her again was like reconnecting with their own youth. For Carmen, it was a chance to honor a chapter of her life that had shaped her while affirming the steadier, more private path she had chosen afterward. Her story was proof that life after fame could be just as fulfilling, and that influence could linger long after the cameras stopped rolling. Carmen Jimenez's story reminds us that the most enduring legacies are often the quietest ones. On American Bandstand, she gave audiences a glimpse of elegance and representation at a time when both were rare. She did not win every contest or dominate every camera angle, but her presence carried a subtle power, proof that a Puerto Rican teenager from Kensington could stand shoulder to shoulder with the icons of a generation. For many fans, her natural grace, her authenticity, and the image of two sisters dancing together remain among the most cherished memories of the show's Philadelphia years. Away from the cameras, Carmen lived a life defined by family, service, and community. Her decades of work in healthcare touched lives in ways just as lasting as her time on television. To her family and friends, she was not only a dancer who once graced America's screens, but a woman who brought kindness and strength into daily life. Her journey is a reminder that influence does not fade with the spotlight. It continues in the lives we touch. And now, we turn to you. Which dancer from American Bandstand left the strongest mark on your own memories?